So good afternoon. My name is Dr. Shenikqua Bouges, and I will be presenting our work looking at the effect of metabolic syndrome risk factors on processing speed in 3 racial groups. We know that metabolic syndrome is a known risk factor in Alzheimer's disease and related dementias in midlife. Racial and ethnic minorities, underrepresented groups, tend to exhibit increased metabolic syndrome burden. With that said, in preclinical dementia, metabolic syndrome risk factors are associated with worse cognition, particularly processing speed. So a major theme of our project is to focus on enrollment factors because we know a major theme of our project is to work on increasing diversity in studies because we know from previous research by Gleason and others that enrollment factors may contribute to selection bias. With that said, our work suggests that the method of recruitment or referral source needs to be considered in analyses examining racial differences. So we hypothesized that processing speed would be worse with increasing metabolic syndrome burden and exacerbated in underrepresented group participants. As a secondary hypothesis, we thought that enrollment factors would impact the representation of metabolic syndrome risk factors in different racial groups. We used cognitively unimpaired participants from the Wisconsin Registry for Alzheimer's Prevention, as well as the Wisconsin Alzheimer's Disease Research Center cohorts who had lab work and neuropsychological testing completed. We focused on 6 cognitive outcomes, looking at a 3-way interaction of age versus metabolic syndrome versus race and its effect on processing speed. As a secondary analysis, we looked at participant characteristics by referral source. In our highly selected samples, we are still echoing previous findings where we see that it's a higher metabolic syndrome burden in underrepresented groups, particularly African Americans and Native Americans in our study. If I can draw your attention to the graph looking at the metabolic syndrome count of 1 on the far left for you, we can look at the association of age, which is indicated on the x-axis, and processing speed on the y-axis, where we see a stronger association in the Native American group, which is indicated by the blue line by a steeper slope. In the non-Hispanic white group, indicated by the red line in African Americans, they tend to have similar cognitive trajectories over time, despite metabolic syndrome count. So in summary, we saw an age-based performance on a measure of speeded visual attention or processing speed differed in Native Americans. Although our Native American sample size was small, larger population-based studies also suggest this compounding effect of metabolic syndrome in Native Americans. This highlights the importance of increasing diversity in our samples by reaching out to underrepresented groups in the community. Because in our study, what we found is that those individuals who were referred by health professionals tended to be older and perform worse on executive function tests. So this indicates that the referral source influenced our comparisons of the metabolic syndrome risk factors as well as cognition, which is a direction for future analyses. So I would like to thank you for your time, and I would like to thank each and every one listed on this slide for all of their support. Thank you.